Every day, people lose power not because they are wrong, but because they rush to defend themselves. You've felt it. When someone questions your decisions, your reputation, or your character, and you immediately try to explain. But here's the truth: defense never restores power, it only hands it away. Today, I will show you the secret to flipping the game instantly, without ever defending yourself. Power is not taken by force alone. It is taken by perception. The moment others believe you are weak, they will treat you as weak. And nothing exposes weakness faster than defending yourself. Defense is the language of the powerless. It says, "I beg you to believe me." But power does not beg. Power does not explain. Power commands, shifts, and redirects. Defensiveness signals weakness. When a man rushes to defend himself, he declares to the world that he is already guilty of something, even if he is not. Defense is not neutral, it is submission. It is an admission that another person has the right to judge you, to put you on trial, to measure your worth. The very act of defending places you in a position below your accuser. Think of the courtroom. The one who defends stands before the jury, sweating, speaking, hoping to convince, while the one who accuses sits back in control. This is the dynamic you must understand. Defense lowers you, accusation raises the other. That is why the powerful never defend. They let accusations crumble in the air, ignored, unworthy of acknowledgement. Defensiveness is a signal, and signals travel faster than truth. People do not wait to analyze the logic of your defense. They see only your posture, your tone, the urgency in your words, and urgency betrays fear. Imagine a ruler who, when criticized, explains himself endlessly. He appears fragile, desperate to be liked. His people will smell weakness before his words reach their ears. Now imagine a ruler who, when attacked, continues as though nothing was said, or laughs, or redirects the conversation to matters of his choosing. The crowd feels the difference. One has surrendered authority, the other has magnified it. The truth is that the world is not ruled by facts, but by impressions. You may be perfectly innocent, but if you defend yourself too eagerly, people will assume the opposite. They will think, why is he so desperate to explain? What is he hiding? Your words, no matter how clear, will be stained by the shadow of your behavior. The strongest position, therefore, is not to explain, but to act as though you need no explanation. Silence can be louder than arguments. A calm face can destroy accusations before a single sentence is spoken. History is filled with leaders, generals, and kings who fell not because they were weak, but because they allowed themselves to look weak. And nothing creates that appearance faster than defensiveness. Even in everyday life, the same principle holds true. In business, the manager who explains away every criticism loses authority before his team. In friendship, the man who pleads to justify his choices becomes less respected. In love, the partner who constantly defends his worth erodes attraction. Defensiveness does not protect, it corrodes. It eats away at the image of strength until nothing remains but insecurity. Paradox is that defending yourself rarely convinces anyone. Those who already distrust you will not be swayed by your words. Those who already trust you do not require them. So why defend? It serves no one but the accuser, because every word you speak within their frame gives their charge life. If you are accused of being cruel, and you spend your breath insisting on your kindness, you have already lost the higher ground. You are no longer the one who commands the narrative. You are the one trapped inside it. The accuser has succeeded in bending you to their frame, and even if you appear victorious, the damage is done. You fought on their battlefield, not your own. Think also of the way defensiveness spreads. One accusation answered begets another, and soon you are drowning in explanations. The more you defend, the more reasons you must invent, the more tangled your story becomes. Eventually, even if you began with truth, your words will appear rehearsed, artificial. The crowd will grow wary of listening, and in their wariness, suspicion grows. The one who does not defend, on the other hand, remains untouchable. His silence cannot be misquoted. His calm cannot be twisted. He speaks only when he chooses, and therefore every word has weight. Even the smallest gesture of defense can undo years of built reputation. One heated explanation, one desperate plea, one moment of panic. These reveal more than your accuser ever could. You may not see it, but the world does. You are not unshakable. You are wounded. And once they know where the wound is, they will press harder. Defensiveness invites more attacks, just as blood in water attracts more sharks. Power is not maintained by proving yourself right. It is maintained by making others question whether they ever had the right to question you at all. To never defend yourself is not the same as being blind to accusation. It is a deliberate strategy. You hear, but you do not respond. You see, you do not react. You allow others to wear themselves out in speculation while you remain unmoved. This is how strength is preserved, not by endless words, by controlled silence, unbroken composure, and a refusal to kneel in the court of another's opinion. Silence or redirection is stronger than defense. When accusations rise against you, the natural instinct is to answer. You feel the fire in your chest, the urge to clear your name, to correct the story, to prove that you are not what they say you are. But this instinct is the very thing that traps you. The more you respond, the more you play the game that your enemy has set. They want you to react, to be pulled into their theater, to fight in the space they have created. When you defend, you legitimize the accusation. You give life to words that would have died on their own. The wiser path is not defense, but silence, or better, redirection. Silence unsettles people more than any speech. When you do not respond, the accuser is left hanging, their words echoing in the air without resistance. The crowd begins to wonder, why is he not shaken? Why does he not answer? Is he so confident that these charges are beneath him? Your silence is not absence. It is presence magnified. It makes you look untouchable, as though the attack is nothing more than a fly against armor. Silence strips the accusation of weight, because if it were worth your attention, you would have answered. Instead, you show the world that it is too small for you to even acknowledge. But silence alone is not always enough. Sometimes the attack lingers and the crowd still watches. This is when redirection becomes your weapon. Redirection is the art of shifting the gaze, bending the attention of the room away from the charge and onto a subject of your choosing. If someone accuses you of being ruthless, you do not argue about kindness. You speak of results, victories, progress. You pivot the frame. You remind the audience of something larger, something that makes the accusation look trivial. The attack dissolves not because you answered it, but because you made it irrelevant. The one who redirects holds true control. Consider a commander accused of wasting resources. If he defends himself, he looks desperate. If he redirects, saying, "Resources mean nothing if victory is not secured, and I secured it," he reframes the conversation. The accusation becomes small compared to the triumph. Or think of a leader accused of arrogance. If he redirects, saying, "Arrogance is meaningless, strength is what matters, and I deliver strength," then arrogance no longer matters. The crowd is no longer debating the charge. They are following his frame. The accuser has lost, not by being disproven, but by being overshadowed. The secret of redirection lies in control of attention. People are drawn not to facts, but to the force that points their gaze. If you allow yourself to be dragged into an argument, you are following someone else's direction. You have surrendered the spotlight. But if you steer the moment, if you redirect the gaze, then the accuser becomes the one who is ignored, irrelevant, forgotten. Power is not about having the better argument. It is about being the one who chooses what is argued about. Notice how silence and redirection both flow from the same principle. Never let another dictate your movements. The man who defends is a puppet, dancing on the strings of another's accusations. The man who stays silent cuts the strings. The man who redirects takes the stage for himself. Each option denies the accuser the victory of control. Each option leaves you above the fray, appearing stronger, calmer, more untouchable than before. And there is another advantage. When you are silent, others fill the void with their own interpretations. Some will assume your innocence, believing you are too secure to respond. Others will imagine layers of meaning in your quiet, suspecting depths they cannot measure. Silence creates mystery, and mystery is power. When you redirect, you give the crowd not only distraction, but purpose. You pull their minds away from whispers and toward your chosen vision. They forget the original charge because you have given them something greater to focus on. The accuser loses, not by force, but by irrelevance. Those who master silence and redirection discover that the world bends easily. Accusations fade faster than they expect. Attacks dissolve without ever needing to be met. Crowds admire those who do not explain themselves, because explanation is what common men do. The uncommon stand above it, untouched, beyond the reach of petty words. And those who redirect shape reality itself, because reality belongs not to those who complain, but to those who command attention. Control the frame, don't follow it. Power is not only about strength, wealth, or status. It is about who dictates the terms of reality. Every conversation, every dispute, every confrontation takes place inside a frame, and the one who defines that frame already wins before words are exchanged. To defend yourself is to step into a frame that is not your own. The moment you accept the charge and answer within its boundaries, you concede that the accuser has the authority to define the battlefield. You are no longer speaking as a master, you are reacting as a servant. Consider the difference between leading and following. A leader does not ask, "What do they accuse me of?" He asks, "What story will I make them believe?" If they call you unjust and you protest that you are fair, you have allowed their frame to dominate. Fairness is now the ground of battle, and you have been dragged into proving yourself against their standards. If instead you speak of strength, of vision, of destiny, then fairness fades into irrelevance. You did not accept their terms, you replace them with your own. The crowd follows the one who sets the theme, not the one who debates it. This is why frames are dangerous. They are invisible prisons. Most people never notice when they are trapped. They argue endlessly, thinking they are fighting, when in truth they are only dancing to the tune of another. The wise refuse to fight inside walls they did not build. They create new walls, new arenas, new stories, and force others to play inside them. The accuser says, "You are cruel." And the wise answer not with denial but with, "Cruelty is irrelevant. What matters is victory." At once the field has shifted. The accuser is left behind, still speaking of cruelty, while the crowd now considers victory. The one who controls the frame also controls perception. People rarely chase after truth. They chase after the story that is most compelling, the ground that feels most solid. If you hold the power to define what the ground is, then no accusation can touch you. A general accused of wasting men's lives can redefine the frame by saying, "Lives are given so that the nation may live forever." A ruler accused of pride can say, "Pride is nothing, stability is everything." In each case, the crowd no longer debates the original charge. They accept the ruler's new measure of judgment, because he spoke it with authority. The danger of following someone else's frame is not only that you lose power, but that you look small. To explain yourself inside another's boundaries is to show that you are not the one who dictates reality. You look like a child in an adult's house, trying to prove that you belong. But to set the frame yourself is to build the house and invite others in. You appear as the architect, the source, the standard. Even those who dislike you will have no choice but to speak your language, to argue in your terms, to think within your structure. This is the essence of power, not to answer questions, but to decide which questions are worth asking. Not to prove yourself, but to make others prove themselves against your vision. The crowd does not remember who won the argument, they remember who defined the conversation. Appear unshaken. The world does not measure truth with scales, it measures power with eyes. People are not persuaded by perfect reasoning, but by the appearance of strength. When accusations rise against you, the masses do not lean in to examine the details of the charge, they watch your reaction. If you flinch, if your face darkens, if your voice grows urgent, you have already betrayed yourself. Even innocence will look like guilt once you seem rattled. To appear unshaken is to hold command not only over others, but over the theater of perception itself. Those who rise to power understand that control of image is as important as control of action. You may have built empires, secured victories, silenced enemies, but if one baseless accusation causes you to tremble, all those accomplishments will be overshadowed. People will forget the mountains you moved, and remember only the doubt on your face. This is why remaining calm is not an act of passivity, but of supreme strength. The ability to stand as though unbothered communicates more than explanations ever could. It tells the crowd this attack is beneath me. It tells the accuser, you have no weapon sharp enough to reach me. There is an ancient trick to handling storms. Act as though they do not exist. When others rage, when they pour out venom, when they attempt to corner you with words, you do not rush to block or dodge. You let the storm spend itself while you remain upright, steady, untouched. This posture creates doubt in the minds of onlookers. If you are guilty, why are you not shaken? If you are vulnerable, why do you look so at ease? In their confusion, they often side with you, because people trust calmness more than they trust argument. Appearing unshaken also has a deeper psychological effect. It weakens your enemy. The one who accuses expects resistance. They throw their charge like a spear, hoping you will meet it with frantic defense. When you do not react, the spear vanishes in the air. Their effort becomes futile, their energy wasted. They begin to look foolish, repeating the same accusations while you carry on as though nothing has happened. Soon the crowd does not see them as bold, they see them as obsessed. An obsession without effect is the mark of weakness. Think of a ruler who is called corrupt. If he appears anxious, explains himself in detail, offers proofs, he will be remembered as a man desperate to be believed. But if he smiles calmly, carries on with his plans, and answers only with decisive actions, he looks untouchable. The charge fades, not because it was disproven, but because it failed to move him. To remain unmoved is the ultimate act of dominance. Even in the smallest interactions, this principle applies. In business, when rivals attack your decisions, answering with urgency makes them appear more powerful than you. Remaining calm makes them seem irrelevant. In personal life, when someone provokes you, their victory depends on your reaction. If you are unshaken, the provocation dies in their throat. To appear unshaken is not always about silence, it is about composure. You may choose to speak, but your words must come with the weight of someone who is not disturbed. Speak lightly, almost as if the accusation amuses you, or shift to another subject with smooth indifference. Every gesture must signal, "This does not touch me." That appearance becomes armor, and armor breeds authority. Turned doubt into advantage, suspicion is usually feared, yet suspicion in the hands of the strong becomes a tool sharper than a blade. Most men waste their lives chasing approval, explaining themselves, pleading for clarity, trying to erase every shadow that lingers around their name. But shadows are not weaknesses, they are weapons. A figure bathed in mystery draws the eye more than one fully exposed. When no one can pin you down, when they cannot decide whether the whispers are truth or lies, you rise above ordinary men who are entirely understood. Doubt becomes your shield, and more importantly, it becomes the aura that makes people treat you as someone larger than life. The instinct to clear away suspicion comes from fear. You think that if others doubt you, they will withdraw their trust. Yet trust is not won by transparency, it is won by power. People do not follow the one who gives them every answer. They follow the one who makes them feel that he sees farther than they ever could. If they suspect you of secrets, it only confirms your authority. They imagine depths in you that perhaps do not exist, but perception matters more than fact. What you allow to remain unspoken becomes more powerful than what you loudly declare. Consider a leader accused of having hidden motives. If he rushes to deny it, he looks weak, frightened of suspicion. If he embraces the doubt, if he smiles and says nothing, he lets the whispers grow into a myth. His enemies say, "He is plotting," and the crowd begins to believe it, not as a weakness, but as proof of cunning. Even if the leader has no plan at all, the suspicion that he does will make people fear crossing him. Doubt, therefore, becomes armor that others place on him without his effort. Mystery creates distance, and distance creates respect. When people cannot fully read you, they keep their guard up. They hesitate before attacking, they hesitate before questioning. The uncertain are easier to control than the certain. If they cannot predict how you will respond, they tread carefully around you. This is why allowing doubt to live around your name is more valuable than killing it. Certainty invites familiarity, doubt invites caution. Even in personal matters, this principle holds true. A man who explains every detail of his actions becomes ordinary, predictable, unthreatening. A man who allows gaps, who lets others wonder why he moves as he does, becomes intriguing. Suspicion creates fascination. People may speak against him, but they cannot ignore him. In truth, indifference is more dangerous than suspicion. To be doubted is to remain in their minds. To be fully explained is to be forgotten. Suspicion also drains the energy of your enemies. When they doubt you, they imagine countless hidden schemes. They grow anxious, seeing plots where none exist. They waste their strength guarding against shadows while you remain still, watching them exhaust themselves. Their fear builds your reputation without you lifting a finger. To cultivate suspicion is to make your enemies fight ghosts until they tire and collapse. This is not a call to fabricate lies or to live in dishonor. It is the recognition that the human mind prefers mystery over certainty. When you embrace doubt instead of erasing it, you stand apart from the masses who explain themselves endlessly. You transform suspicion from a chain into a crown, and you learn that it is often better to be feared for secrets you do not have than to be pitied for truths you have explained too clearly. Defending yourself may win the argument, but it will always cost you authority. The truly powerful never defend. They shift, they redirect, they rise above. Master this, and you will never play on the ground again. You will make others climb to reach you.